Speaking of which, can we talk about this, please? Look, you guys know that I am a guy who believes in Ashton Jeanty. I want him drug tested.
Do you believe?
I want him drug tested. I think I need piss in a cup right now. Because are you out of your ever-loving cocained up mind? Because that's all I can think of that you would say something like this.
If you could script it exactly how you want it to.
If I could script it, my family's all in Texas.
Okay.
Family being there, all the connections, all the relationships, I feel like that would just be the perfect city to play in.
Jerry Jones, make the call.
Hey, you know what to do,
Jerry
man.
Jones, make the call.
We making the drive to Boise today? I'm sorry. I thought, Mr. Heisman, I thought you said that you wanted to play for the Dallas Cowboys. And did anybody notice?
If you could script it exactly how you want it to.
If I could script
what's
it,
on
my
the
family's
ground
all in
right
Texas.
there?
Okay.
Family being there, all the connections, all the
you guys see
relationships,
that?
I feel like that would just be the perfect city to play in.
Jerry Jones,
No,
make the call.
Hey, you know what to do, man.
Jerry Jones, make the call.
No, it wouldn't. It's not funny. Drug abuse is not funny, Ashton, because you are out of your mind. I don't believe that is no.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
We all know you want the Chicago Bears. Say it out loud.
Let's go somewhere.
Yeah, you're a cold weather guy now, sir. Excuse me. Nobody wants to play for the Dallas Cowboys.
Here's the game plan.
Nobody wants to play.
Well, it's Dion and Shador and Jeanty,
I hate you so much sometimes.
I mean, they're just going to
Deion
collect
Sanders.
all this talent.
So Prime and I were sitting down.
At Monty.
And I was looking in his reflective glasses. And something told me that there's a camera behind me and it's Deion Sanders Jr. making a vlog.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders is not going to coach the Dallas Cowboys.
What?
He is
What?
not. Stop.
Don't believe us.
Stop speaking that into existence.
Oh, no.
Right now, if I said to you, the Chicago Bears, we could, the Chicago Bears, we could flip Caleb Williams and Shador Sanders right now today. Would you?
No.
Would you do it?
No, I would not.
No, I would not.
No.
I wouldn't either.
No.
We're going to talk about that coming up in a bit. But no, you don't want to play for the Cowboys. Eric and Raleigh. The best the NFL can offer is the Houston Texans. What
I
team?
would rather play for the Texans than the Cowboys.
I think if you want to play for the Dallas Cowboys, you are saying you're fine not winning a Super Bowl. Unless Jarrett gets gored by a steer. Right?
What, is he going to pull a Gundy and get, poked in the eye by his cattle?
See what he did there? Poked.
Yeah. See what I did there?
Go
Poked in the
Pokes.
eye, pokes. Yeah.
You didn't do that. Why does he have dolls with him? I think, okay, this is too far. I think if you play with dolls, you're weird. As a kid, as an adult.
He's doing that because people say the way he stands in the backfield looks, they look the same. That's what they're saying. That's why that's there. That's been a social media thing.
I hate dolls. I think dolls are weird. Giggity. Hello, Giggity. Hope you had a good Veterans Day, sir. Appreciate your service. Does Jeanty play with a tinted visor? So we're going to play this game now. I think Ashton Jeanty is, I would agree he does play with a tinted visor. He's a weird.
Dude, you got to have drip. Come on.
He has drip.
I know, because he plays with a tinted visor.
I think he, I don't know, man.
You guys
I just
remember
think
back in the day in the NFL when dudes would play with like a blacked out visor? Those are the days.
You're not allowed to do that anymore, by the way. I think it's weird that you're rolling around Boise with dolls. If he had a sack of potatoes, okay, I won't make the potato joke, but I do think it's weird that Ashton Jeanty is rolling around Boise with dolls in his hand.
Uh-huh.
I'm not willing to do it. I'm not here for it. I think he is. I still maintain Ashton Jeanty should win the Heisman Trophy, but now I can't give it to him because he plays with dolls. I'm not here for it. I am not here for it at all. The Dallas could be good team if they improve their offensive line.
Here we go. Dude. Like, just, bro,
No.
we're having a good show. We're not doing this.
Nope. Jerry Jones to Pamplona. Let the Bulls do the job. Jerry, let's go on a trip. I'll pay for it. Okay. What's your take on CU versus Utah? I think that we'll see you later, Utah. That's going to be a very difficult game for both teams. I think that Van Fillinger and that pass rush, Logan Fano, those boys up front, that defensive line at Utah showed you that they're just fine. The pass rush showed you they're just fine. I think the biggest question on that Utah defense, and for any defense going up against Colorado, and I haven't seen if Jimmy Horn's going to play, but if you've got those three receivers healthy,
Yeah.
there's 7 wide receivers deep at Colorado right now. And I think the weakness in that Utah defense is covering that wide receiver group. And it's not that they just catch the ball. I think it goes without saying that Shedeur Sanders he got such an ass whooping last year that has anybody noticed his accuracy under pressure? Has anybody noticed his ability now to run, to create a throwing lane? It's elite. It's why I think arguably he is the best quarterback in the country now. No doubt he's the best quarterback in the Big 12.
Right.
I think he's arguably the best quarterback in the country. I think he is the first quarterback taken in the draft next year.
Completely agree.
Because
I really don't think that's much of a conversation.
he's shown he's durable. He's shown that he has the ability to be under center or in the gun. He's shown that he can be really good in play action. And he's shown that he can now create the space necessary in a passing offense to get away from pressure to throw the football down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And he's developed the ability now to throw the football away, which he had never done previously. I think the biggest problem is I think Colorado accidentally scores 28 points. And I don't see any way Utah scores 28 points.
Right.
And that to me is the number. I was looking at some of the tape out of the BYU game. The quarterback is not even the biggest problem for Utah now. Brant Keithy's injury really brings the safeties and linebackers closer to the line of scrimmage. And that is because Mekhi Bernard's your best weapon now. That's the reality of it. It is going to be really difficult for Utah to drive the length of the field without Brant Keithy.
The only thing I would say about Utah is that with Bernard, they've shown the ability to road grade teams. Like they did it against Baylor, and I know Baylor's mid, I know, but they have the ability to turn around and move you and let Bernard get 5 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry, and they can run for first downs when they want to. They can kind of switch into that mode. And I would not be surprised to see a lot of that against Colorado.
I think the biggest problem that I have is now the safeties don't have anybody to worry about. And Brant Keithy, and most people probably don't recognize this, but Brant Keithy requires you to shade the safety to his side of the formation. And you don't have to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And you don't have anybody that is dynamic there.
How much of it is also that they don't have anything to play for anymore? Like,
I think they're on a mission. Utah is not going to lay down. If anything, Utah will play harder because they are going to force you to I think they are going to force you to keep your spot on this roster next year. And you look at the fact that a guy like Mekhi Bernard is still averaging 5.8 yards per carry. And what do they have to lean on offensively? The offensive line, specifically center, right guard, right tackle. That's the strength of that Utah offense, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think you look at like a guy like a Dorian Singer. Dorian Singer's not who he says he is. Is it because of the quarterback situation? Sure, absolutely could be. But you're not scared of Dorian Singer. You're not scared of, like, you look at the production between Brant Keithy and Money Parks. That's 56 catches, 800 yards, and 9 touchdowns gone.
Yeah.
You don't overcome that. You don't overcome that. And I don't even know. I think Mekhi Bernard is who you scheme in this offense because he catches the ball, he runs the ball, and he is absolutely a safety outlet. And my question is, with Cam Rising and Brandon Rose out, how do you now turn back to Isaac Wilson and say, you're my guy?
I just think you gotta accept it. You like, if you're Utah, I gotta imagine, again, I'm just speculating here, just my opinion. I gotta imagine that there's been conversations with Isaac Wilson about, like, hey, dude, like, this is our situation. Obviously, you understand that this team has suffered massive injury.
Yep.
And you've been handed a situation that, while not ideal, is what you have to work with and what you have to deal with. And you have to show us, like, what you're capable of here. And so I think in this game, like, the comment was, what do we expect?
Mhm.
I don't expect Utah to win this game, certainly. But what I do expect Utah to do is get after Shedeur. And I would expect Shedeur to, like, wouldn't be surprised if Shedeur left, the game, not left it early, like, completes the game, but leaves this game, hurting a bit, like having been punished a bit. And I think that's what Utah's pride is going to be at this point, is like, hey, we're just going to beat you up and we're going to prove a point. And you may beat us, and that's fine. But, that's not really saying much anymore.
Yeah.
But we're going to come out here and do the things that we want to do. And if for Isaac Wilson, all I want to see him do is just understand what he's trying to do on offense better. Like, just understand, okay, it's 3rd and 4. My OC is called a play action pass. What am I looking for in this look? Like, basically just good fundamentals on the tape. That's all I think you can expect.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see who steps up for Utah, because they are, I mean, you have, I think you have a lot of talent on that team. It's just a matter of, is Isaac Wilson a guy that you can count on? Is he a guy that you can turn back around to now that you took the ball from him and say, yep? Because I don't think you have another option here. You don't have another option. You're going to Isaac Wilson. What do you do at this point? I don't know. And frankly, you're not solving that at Colorado.
No, you're not.
You're not solving that at Colorado. Norge Koog, what happened to the Utah deep tight end room? What do you mean? They have phenomenal tight ends. They have a grouping of tight ends that I think most teams, certainly in this league and in this country, would drool over. That's why I said it's not a Utah talent thing. And casual BYU fan coming in and being a red ass about Utah, bro, it's played.
Yeah.
To me, you went with this comment, you tell me you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're going to have to do better.
Yeah, just tell me you have no clue about Utah football without telling me you have no clue.
And it does go without saying. I guess I didn't feel like we needed to explain this, but Brant Keithy's an NFL tight end, man. I mean, you don't, like, just generally
He's an
speaking,
NFL wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, just like generally speaking, like, you can have a deep tight end room, but still lose the best guy in that room and understand that there's going to be, there's a fall off there. I mean, not every tight end and not every football player is good enough talent-wise, just raw talent-wise, to play on Sundays, let alone an upperclassman that's had elite development and has turned himself into a great route runner and catcher of the football. Like, that's the stuff that's underrated. So there is no doubt they have a good tight end room, a really good tight end room, but there's still fall off there.
Yeah. We'll see. UW Van Gin, if Baylor goes to West Virginia and win, they save their season. Baylor has lost to every good football team they have played.
Yeah. And they're irrelevant. Nobody, with all due respect.
That's why they're a 500 football team. And I know Baylor fan gets a red ass, but when you lose to Utah, Colorado, BYU, and Iowa State, and your wins are Air Force, Tech, Oak State, and TCU, are we supposed to be impressed with that?
Texas Tech, how, dude? How?
Are we supposed to be impressed with that? Because you scored 59 on a bad Texas Tech defense.
Man.
And now you've got to go to West Virginia, Houston, and then you finish up at home against Kansas.
Yeah.
We'll find out. West Virginia is a tough trip, man. West Virginia, man. Neil Brown's 4-2. If they win this game, they're bowl eligible. Can you really fire Neil Brown at that point? And it's the same thing.
Survives another year.
It's the same thing with Mr. Clean in Waco.
Yeah.
If they go to a bowl, can you fire Dave Aranda? And it goes back to the Baylor president. You're trying to call a meeting of every administrator in power conferences, and you're not willing to fire Dave Aranda. I'm not going to take you seriously. Baylor needs to fire Dave Aranda, period. West Virginia needs to fire Neil Brown, period.
Right.
Right? Like you look at, again, I tell you, TCU's bowl eligible. If they beat Arizona and Cincinnati and they win 8 games, are you firing Sonny Dykes? Probably not. Should Sonny be fired? Probably not.
It's the Mike Gundy syndrome.
But
right?
You're good enough not to get fired. That doesn't mean you're good.
Yeah.
Or that you've done enough. That's a real problem in this league. It is a real problem in this league that there is a lot of mediocrity that's disguised in going to bowl games. And it's Oak State's the best example. Oh, well, we go to bowl games. Who cares?
But think about how far it's gone with Mike, right? Like you have Oklahoma State fans who regard Mike Gundy as like a living legend, bro. But this is not someone who's been to the college football playoff or won a national championship or like done.
Yeah.
Like I understand that he's had a couple of years where he's gone to New Year's Six Bowls and stuff, but it's not like you've had this just massive level of success. That's the crazy part.
Damian Fowler, I wouldn't necessarily say Shedeur will go number 1 because Prime said he's going to have a say in where he goes to play. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. And every number 1 pick has always said that. So believing that there's a Prime effect on who drafts Shedeur, I think is crazy. What number 1 quarterback, including Caleb Williams, has not talked about their potential draft landing spots? Every one of them does it. Eric and Raleigh, Jerry Jones needs to add a 32nd level to Jerry World Dome to make sure CeeDee Lamb can find the ball without the sun in his eyes.
Yeah,
That's where the Dallas Cowboys are.
Yeah.
We're talking about sun in your eyes.
We ran that take out on Monday, bro.
Yeah. Shedeur with almost 73% completion percentage, by far the best QB with an average offensive line, which is crazy to me. CU will beat Utah by 10 or more, but then we'll lose to KU by 10 the following week. Okay. The Tater Man, we're going to find out who you are Saturday night in Provo.
Yeah, we're going to find out how
that's
much
a tough
you want
environment.
It, bro. No question about it.
That is a tough environment. Very tough. Jay McClanahan, which team out of the middle teams can make a legit run at the end? Well, I mean, I think that's a really interesting question. I mean, if you look at the teams, TCU, for instance, with 2 games left in their bye week, Arizona is a very winnable, should win that game. Texas Tech is very interesting to me. Oklahoma State and West Virginia. And West Virginia's in Lubbock. You should win 8 games this year. You should win 8 games. You should be 6-3 in conference. And if that's the case, you'll be top 5 in the conference.
Right.
Because let's not forget, Iowa State and K-State are going to run their faces into each other. Iowa State has a very difficult finish here. Cincinnati at Utah, K-State. That's not an easy road to finish. K-State, on the other hand, has Arizona State, Cincinnati, and then at Iowa State. They should win all 3 of those.
Yeah.
You should win all 3 of those. If you think Arizona State is going to be easy on Saturday night, you're out of your mind. Arizona State is at K-State, BYU, and Arizona. If you win 2 out of those 3, Kenny Dillingham should get a lifetime contract.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a 9-win football team. I said Arizona State's a 9-win football team at that point. 9 wins with that roster, unbelievable. West Virginia. Baylor, UCF, and then at Tech. If you win 2 of those 3, you're a 7-win football team. Are you firing Neil Brown if he's 7-5?
Still pretty mid, dude.
But exactly. Are you firing Neil Brown if he wins 7 games?
I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but 8 wins feels so much better than 7.
It does.
Like, it's only one more win, but man, it just feels so much better.
I believe it's completely different. I don't know. I think it's very interesting to see how all that plays out.
Yeah.
And what a year in the Big 12 that this has been. I mean, my God. The stadium guy, James. Mike Gundy is like Kirk Ferentz at Iowa, a good coach who has been consistent. He's good. He's not great. Okay. The mea culpa has begun. The Big 12 conference are not a top 4 seed in the playoff. Based on what math are you doing? Because let's surmise that BYU or Colorado wins the conference championship. You don't think they're getting a bye? Yeah, they are. Yeah, the ACC has that problem. Because now almost no matter who wins, if Boise State wins out, Boise State will be ranked in the top 12 and will likely be ranked higher than the ACC conference champion. That's the problem. That's what you're looking at. Tanner Plummer, BYU needs to blow the F out of Kansas. Hey, watch your mouth.
Yeah, this is a family program, dude, and I don't know why, why we have to use that kind of language.
Program.
Little extra in the envelope this Sunday, sir. Their lack of style points continues to be one of the knocks on them. They're not going to try and humiliate people.
And I think that's a problem. That's a problem.
Fat old Mormon and dying. For everyone, everyone remember, Colorado lost to a bad Nebraska team. But when did they do that? Very early in the season. Go balance. Style points are a reality. I realize that, but it makes me sick to my stomach, is what it is. Because what you're trying to do is leave an imprint on the brain of the people sitting at that table.
Yeah.
Eric in Durham. 8 SEC, 3 Big Ten, 1 G5. Seriously. Do you guys wonder about who gets in and who doesn't? Do you guys, like, if you look at this, are we getting 17 Big Ten teams into the college football playoff?
I think so, dude. I think it's all Big Ten. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you guys see that Pedo State has solicited their season ticket holders for a potential home game in the college football playoff? So they know they're not playing for a Big Ten championship. Ohio State at 2. It's probably pretty solid. Oregon, Penn State. Does Indiana make the college football playoff?
I think they will, yeah.
That's 4. Is Indiana? I know we've talked about this.
Again, it depends what you do against Ohio State. If you
is
look
Indiana on par with Ohio State?
If you look like an absolute clown against Ohio State, like if it's 40-10,
it's a clown car, bro.
If you look really bad against Ohio State, you're probably not getting in. But again, if it can just be, 27-24. 31-28.
I think I would really pay attention to Camp Randall Stadium. Saturday night at 5:30 Mountain Time, 6:30 Central. Camp Randall Stadium, Oregon, Wisco. And it is going to be very interesting to see how that game plays out.
Yes. By the way, everyone wants to talk about Dion going to the league. Mr. Oregon Duck, Mr. Huge inflatable Oregon Ducks
how about
everywhere.
This story? How about Mr. Float some ducks down the river?
Yeah.
Did you guys see the Dan Lanning NFL coaching candidate story? The good old Danny boy,
yeah,
is allegedly a candidate.
Yeah, he's quote generating buzz in the NFL that teams are looking at Dan Lanning and saying, man, this guy can really, this guy has good culture. Like, this guy could really make a difference at the NFL level. Dan Lanning turned down being the successor to Nick Saban to stay at Oregon. And my question to Dan Lanning is, as I would ask this of Deion Sanders, why would you leave your current position for the NFL? You have everything you've ever wanted.
You said no to Alabama.
You've got the power, the money. It's your team. You're running the show. You don't have some, 80-year-old white guy owner who is totally out of touch with reality, breathing down your neck every 2 seconds. Like, it's everything you want. And that's where I say Dan might be a good NFL coaching candidate, but man, if I was him, I wouldn't change a thing. I would stay right there for
I
a long
think that's
time.
going to be very interesting. Dan Lanning should not leave. Dan Lanning should absolutely not leave.
No.
And
there's opportunity. I mean, if he said to himself, I want to leave, I mean, there's obviously opportunity, but I just can't believe, I mean, he is such a red ass college football coach.
he really is.
That I think he enjoys that grind too much to want to leave. And I look at the NFL versus college, and I just don't know. I don't feel like the NFL is necessarily more attractive than college football right now. I think we saw some turnover from some college coaches going to the league because they were tired of the NIL portal situation. But I think that's kind of settled down a little bit. I think people are starting to figure out how to use it now. And the masses, the boosters, and the money people are starting to get behind that. So it's become a little more palatable.
I would not leave Oregon.
No.
I think there are some good spots, but I would not leave. I would not leave Oregon. And the other thing I would point you to, did you guys see, do you guys know who Ohio State plays this week? More so, do you know where Ohio State is playing this week? The Palace, the Kingdom, the Field of Dreams.
First team all shower stall.
That'd be Wrigley Field against Northwestern. And I am here for it. Now, somebody will probably break a leg or an arm or die on the ivy because the end zone is directly up against the back wall of the right field wall at Wrigley. But that's going to be a hell of a game. Ohio State is a 28.5-point favorite at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
And that game is 10 a.m.
As a
on
Cubs
the Big
season
Ten
ticket
Network.
holder, do you have tickets to that game?
I could have gotten tickets to that game. Yes, I could have. But that game's going to be interesting. There's some games this week, boys, that, like, do you know how many of these games where, like, Utah can be a spoiler? You look at the fact that Kansas can be a spoiler, Northwestern can be a spoiler, even with their shower, car wash, naked sausage guy dude thing. Pitt can be a spoiler, even though I don't think Pitt was ever very good. Pitt has Clemson in Pittsburgh. That's going to be a tough game. Mercer. No, I'm sorry.
Where's Abilene?
Mercer plays at Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Nice off week for Alabama.
No line. There's no line on that game.
Could we see a 40 spot for a line? -40.
I don't think so. This isn't like I'm a little surprised that Oregon is 14 points at Camp Randall. I think that's a 10-point game. But could you see a 75-point line for Alabama over Mercer? And that's the first quarter line.
Right.
That could be ugly. That Tennessee-Georgia game, that's in Athens. Who?
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. There are some games this weekend that are really intriguing. There are some games that I think could be absolutely difference-making. All right. The Monty Show is always presented by our good friends at The Advocates, theadvocates.com. Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears made huge changes. Wait until you hear. Just wait until you hear what DJ Moore said about the Chicago Bears offense after this from the Advocates.
Hi, Sarah. Your dad told me about your accident. Can you tell me how it happened?
Still kind of going through it, but I was stopped at a light, and then this car I heard it come up behind me, and bam, and it's kind of like in slow motion.
The Advocates at theadvocates.com. That's how it goes. You get into an advocate, you get into an accident, you call the Advocates. They're going to fight for you. You're going to detail your situation. Hey, what did you see? How did it happen? They're going to put it all together, and they are going to absolutely get you the best possible outcome, which is why you need clear, risk-free advice on one of the worst days of your life. Get to theadvocates.com. Chat with an injury attorney live online 24/7, 365, and it won't cost you a dime at theadvocates.com. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears.
The Bears, the monsters of the Midway.
How bad is this situation? And do you believe that Caleb Williams is a lost cause for the Chicago Bears?
Well, I wouldn't call him a lost cause. I think, you look around at other, like you compare and contrast to Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears, OC sort of situation the Bears have working right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you compare that to other teams in the league, like the Colts are going back to Anthony Richardson, which is shocking to me. I am very surprised by that. And I don't think the Bears are in the same place with Caleb Williams that those guys are with Anthony Richardson. I think you can look at the Bears and you can say, yeah, dudes like DJ Moore and, that wide receiver room, just are not being put in great positions.
Cole Kmet going targetless 2 weeks ago.
Like, how does that happen? And, I think that there's a lot of rumors that swirl around this team that are nothing to do with that wide receiver room and nothing to do, like the reporting. And this is what I love too. And I understand there's a lot of drama happening, but the reporting that dudes, veteran players on the team, didn't want Caleb
that veteran players went
and
to the coaching staff. And there are some reports out of Chicago that some of the veteran players on offense went to Ryan Poles and asked for Matt Eberflus to be fired. That was after the Washington game.
Mm-hmm.
Then after 2 weeks ago, veteran players went to Matt Eberflus and asked him to fire Shane Waldron. He would not. They asked him then to bench Caleb Williams. He would not. And then you had the debacle against New England. And you're in a situation now where you had no choice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you buy into the fact that the veterans don't want to play with Caleb Williams?
I don't.
I do not either.
I don't. I think that is the classic, hey, we're taking the situation too far. And, I think that one thing that nobody talks about from last year with Justin Fields versus this year with Caleb Williams is Caleb has, in my opinion, handled the situation really professionally. I don't think we've gotten we've played a bunch of his media stuff.
He has said it's about me.
Yeah.
I am not playing well enough. I am not making good decisions. I am not doing what I have to do.
Yeah. He hasn't made it about the team.
You haven't heard that. And
Yeah.
then you listen to this bite from Bears wide receiver DJ Moore talking about what Shane Waldron did, or really more talking about what he did not do. And just, I'm warning you, put your hands at 10-2 because this is offensive.
I want to say probably like when we want to call, or it's probably like a drive too late, or like we wanted to make adjustments and we just wait till halftime to make it, and then we don't get the same look. So I can see what he mean by that.
So let me get this right. The players were going to the offensive coordinator in the middle of the game saying, hey, we're seeing this. We want to do this. And Shane Waldron was like, no. Well, let's make this adjustment here in the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter here. They're doing this. Let's try that. No. We'll make the adjustment at halftime. And the problem is the other team makes an adjustment, comes out, and you never get that set again. So the adjustment at halftime never happens. It's you're wasting time, you're wasting plays, and you're inept on offense.
Yeah.
Because Shane Waldron, the former Bears offensive coordinator, refused to make halftime adjustments.
Which is incredible to me. I don't
That's
understand how a coordinator just in the day to day, like you're in the middle of this football game in the first half and your team, your offense is struggling, your wide receivers come to you and say, hey, this is what we feel and we see. Let's go this way or that way. And you're like, no, I can't. We're going to talk about it at halftime. I don't understand how that works just from like a coaching logic perspective. How do you sit there on the bench on national TV next to Caleb Williams and have him with that type of body language and you're like making jokes and stuff or whatever he was saying? Like, that's what I don't get about the Bears sometimes. I don't get how they're just so far removed from like just classic football logic. Like it'd be different if, hey, we're trying to make adjustments. You can see them trying to do things and they're just not good enough. They're just not talented enough.
And my point is just improve so that you can be a bad football team. Just improve a little bit so that you're not an inept, embarrassing football team. You're just a bad football team.
Mm-hmm.
And my problem is now you won those games early, which is great. But now you're an embarrassingly inept football team, the Bears are, and they have no shot at getting the number one pick. So you're not getting the best defensive player, the best offensive player, or the best offensive lineman. You're going to be somewhere in the middle of the first round based on the way things look now. And I don't know how you fix that. And then you listen to the new offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears or the interim, call them what you want. And why didn't you fire Shane Waldron sooner when you got a guy talking like this?
Yeah, here's what I say about fixing the problem. So it starts every day we walk in the building. What I said to the team today and to our offensive staff and players is two things you control when you walk in the building. It's your effort and your attitude. So it starts there first, right? How we approach the meetings, being detailed, being locked in, and transferring that to the actual practice field, being intentional about the walkthrough, but also making practice as hard as humanly possible so the game can somewhat become easier. So to me, that's going to be our focus, what we're locked in on. And so understanding that practice preparation always leads to game day execution. So that's our focus. I think on game day, when it comes to how you deliver information, to be solution-oriented, to keep myself calm, also keep him calm as well, to kind of decompress it in every single drive we have, to kind of look forward to what's coming in the next drive.
Because what were Bears players saying? Practice isn't hard. They're not tackling. They're not in pads. Practice is not. Bears players have said that they didn't feel like they were being pushed in practice so that they could win on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's remarkable to me. That football is much like golf. Football and golf are two of the only sports where your practice has to get you ready to play the game. Baseball is a sport of repetition, right? Pitchers pitch bullpens, hitters take batting practice, repetition. There's not hey, practice has to be harder than the actual baseball game. That's not real. In football, in golf, in basketball, even to a certain extent. Like football is a game of toughness, mental toughness. You have to, it's exactly what he said. You have to have a good attitude so that you can make a good effort, because you need a good effort in practice 4 days a week so that you're detail oriented. It pushes you and you remember and you commit it. And then on Sunday, it's effortless.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears are just the opposite. Sunday is what's the hardest thing that they see all week. Not Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Because frankly, Wednesday, Thursday, and a bit of Friday need to be the three hardest days of your week. Covering the NFL and covering really good teams, I can tell you point blank, the NFL teams in San Francisco when I covered the Niners, Jim Harbaugh was the head coach. I am telling you, guys were not happy with Wednesday and Thursday, because where did they go after practice? They went to their cold tubs. Because practice, you're running. You're like, it's amazing to me that we're sitting here talking about the Bears having to put pads back on. They're putting pads back on for practice because they're not tackling well on defense. That's crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
That you're in a place, and I agree, 9 days out of 10, you're not wearing pads in the NFL. But you're talking about like multiple crappy football teams this week said, hey, we're putting pads back on because we're not tackling well. The The Bears are a mess.
And I just
The
think
Bears are
it's
absolutely a mess.
it's this whole thing where you have a head coach who is just not good at what he does, and so that
Man.
obviously flows down through the coaching staff and into the locker room. And I think that it's crazy that and again, this is why I ask about Ryan Poles. Like, he's done a good job building the roster. I don't have an issue with the roster construction, but I do have a big issue with identifying good coaching talent, because ultimately, like, it does take a village of people to make a good football team. You need your GM to build a good roster. You need then the head coach to go out and set the tone culturally speaking, and then you need the coordinators and the supporting staff to go out and teach the concepts. And that part right there of, hey, set good culture and then have your coordinators teach those concepts and instill those fundamentals is just simply not happening for the Bears. And that's where I say this is where bad organizations are gonna be bad organizations. It's why Jerry Jones and company always struggle. It's why the Bears struggle. It's why Jacksonville struggles, because teams just want to bring in whoever the hell they want as a head coach and think it's going to be perfectly fine. And it's not going to be fine. And at some point, you have to change that philosophy.
Yeah, and I don't know how you fix it. I also don't know how you fix Tua Tagovailoa. I want to root for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to root for guys tackling with their faces. I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want my quarterbacks tackling with their faces. But apparently Tua disagrees with me.
It didn't feel as bad as what it probably may have looked like. When we watched it, our coach had said, that he sort of need you in the head. Essentially you're out there playing football. I didn't necessarily feel that. And I wasn't just going to jump out of the way for him to just, run down the sideline and potentially score. So, you got to make decisions, and, I should never threw the pick in the first place.
If you're in that position again, what would you do differently?
I wouldn't do anything differently. I'll make the tackle. That's what I got to do.
Make it make sense. You're telling me that you again, in the NFL, I understand it's tough to tell a guy like a Tua, a Josh Allen, Caleb Williams, who's made tackles this year. It's tough to tell a guy, hey, you just threw an interception, don't go make a tackle. That's really difficult to do. But this guy, above all other guys, cannot be, okay, if you're going to make a tackle, my man, can you not use your flipping head? Like, and then don't stand in front of the media and say you wouldn't change a thing and you do the exact same thing over again. That just make it make sense for me, because I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know how. See, again, and this is the part that I really struggle with. I can't relate to Tua. I don't understand the thought process or why he chooses the way or why he sort of believes or goes about it the way he does. Because this is somebody who and again, I respect his right to make the decision, but I don't understand it. I don't understand why you can't say to yourself, hey, I just threw an interception. I'm out here in the middle of this game. I know heading into this game, I got to protect myself more. You'd have thought that this dude would have at least I understand he's not going to go high on the guy, but you'd have thought that he'd at least just gone waist level. Let me just, because obviously you can't just run through a human. If Tua would have just stood in his way, basically, there were three guys chasing him. Those guys would have brought him down.
Just make him, they teach you as a quarterback in the NFL is don't make forceful contact when you're trying to tackle. Yeah. Make him change directions. It's what they teach punters and kickers.
Yeah.
Make him change direction, because we have guys busting their ass. He had teammates right there. Are we being too hard on Tua? I guess that's a question I have for the comment section.
I don't think we're being too hard on him. I think that, so look, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, okay, yeah, I know I'm a concussion guy, but it's my right to choose to play in the league and continue to do this, but then also have no ability to say, yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to mitigate risk. Obviously, you would, it's like when you're riding a motorcycle, you have the right to ride the motorcycle, but just as a human instinct survival mechanism, you probably would wear a helmet. Most people would probably pop a helmet on. You don't have to. You can go out and do that, but most people are going to put a helmet on. This guy, I can't empathize with it or understand it or reason with it because I don't understand why you're going low head first.
Don't know.
Like, injure your legs, injure your ribs, injure your body. You can replicate all those, man. You can regrow them. You can heal them. You can whatever. But the idea that you went low and people have to ask you, would you do anything different? And you say, no, I wouldn't do anything different. I can't do that. I would never have the guy on my team.
Calford gives 10